So before people start pointing the finger and saying, look, how can these people be so evil? They don't even realize that they're that evil. Although it's March 2024, and I see so many people with their video content or comments or even posts in print asking I suppose it's a rhetorical question, at least for some, how can there be so much craziness and, as a descriptive, wickedness happening in the world today? And what we're experiencing today is really nothing new. We see this type of thing throughout even what we're told history is, and nothing has stopped, nothing has changed. And I've said repeatedly how those imposing everything have generational commitment to whatever it is that they're imposing, and they've been successful. And you contrast that with the common person, and well, basically the common person lives for the day, and that's a fundamental difference. And then we see with generational commitment how previous generations make sure that, for example, their offspring succeed and surpass them, even with success in life or with whatever plans or agendas that they may have. With the commoner, you don't see that. And then we have the people kind of in between who they reap some benefits of, whether they realize it or not, continuing agendas as a descriptive. And we can go all the way back, say, for example, let's go look at Roman times and how people today are even saying, give them bread and entertainment and pacify the people. But really, when you look at it, not everyone bought into it. The majority did, but there were many, just like today, who didn't buy into it. And they were saying the same things, even about their own time, saying, look, they're getting bread and games, and that civilization was coming to its end. It's the same thing today. You have to look at people back then, not as stupid or primitive or anything like that. They're just like today. They react the same way, the same social conditioning, the same everything taking place. Perhaps how they talked, how they dressed, customs, cultures, these things may have different, but really people are people. People haven't changed. And this is what we know history to be. Imagine for a moment, I'm just going to segue, what the true history is that is suppressed, not told, not taught. But that's a whole different tangent. But all this wickedness and, again, as a descriptive, and injustice and tyranny that we see today has been socially engineered, social conditioned for many, many decades. At least since what some would call the last reset. And for decades, people have been conditioned to accept injustice, tyranny. Just think about it. All these decades, people have been socially conditioned to, as a descriptive, be immune to violence, profanity, perversions, all these things. Even bestiality. Well, what? Bestiality? How's that even possible? I'm going to segue for a moment because it all ties in. When you look at cartoons, where you have cartoon characters either interacting with a human cartoon character, or, in, say, for example, in some movies, interacting with a real human with cartoon special effects, and you have an animal all cute and fuzzy and everything else, falling in love with a human or whatever else. These are all very subtle things and presented as, you know, cutesy and, you know, all nice and everything, but just look at it for what it is. Human beings don't interact with animals as a descriptive romantically. But we see this, and we also see now, for example, in Canada, where bestiality is legal, and other countries, other cultures are starting to kind of accept that. All these perversions. So it's no wonder why tyranny, injustice is so rampant now, because, yeah, people don't really care. People don't care until something hits home for them, for example, with wrongful convictions. People talk about, well, we need more whistleblowers and exposers of all these things. That's great. As I've said in older videos, when these people do come forward, are you going to be there to help them pick up the pieces of their life? So far, no. This is across the board. I'm just one example out of countless others, and countless of others that you've never even heard of. And injustice doesn't even have to tie in with whistleblowing, exposing. We see, for example, on people's personal stories where they've had injustice and tyranny imposed on them. For example, we look in the family courts. We look at false accusations, how they lead to wrongful convictions. And false accusations are a weapon by those who do whistleblow and expose. It's a weapon used against them to discredit them. So people are like, oh, well, and at best people might, the few people who would dig in, well, they might conclude, I don't know what's really going on. Because the truth, the reality that is trying to be exposed, for example, maybe a little bit too much, a little bit too close to home. But all these things are allowed to happen by the people. I just want to close off with this. Are people, most people, for example, or even those who are working for governing bodies, are they really to blame? Because if you think about, if you are exposed to something for your whole life, or even part of your life, or for a period of time even, through social engineering, you come to accept things. You don't know any better. As long as you can justify it, and people will argue, well, but we know what's right and wrong. Well, yeah. When it comes to a certain degree, yeah. But if you can justify what you're doing and say, for example, it's for the greater good or whatever, well, you can't see the wrong that's being done. So if you're socially conditioned into this, and you can't see the harm that's being done, and even say, for example, project into the future the consequences of one's actions and the ripple effect, or more commonly known as the butterfly effect, how that impacts everyone in the end. Can you really blame these people who are imposing injustice and tyranny because they don't know any better? Perhaps in their own heart, as a descriptive, they think that they're doing the right thing. But yes, there will come a time when they will realize that all the mental gymnastics and everything else don't help. And then they realize, then they can see, for example, the right and the wrong. They realize their actions at that point. But up until that point, they may think that they're doing the right thing. You know, when you look at social justice, huge problem in today's world. It's spreading, dare I say, as a common term used, like a virus. I'm not getting into what viruses really are, for example, exosomes and everything else, but You get what I'm trying to say here. So before people start pointing the finger and saying, look, how can these people be so evil? They may not even realize that they're that evil. And going back to the question of the rhetorical question, how can this be going on? Well, there's your answer. Anyway, things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.